The family on the father's side of Vladimir Putin comes from the Tver district, which lies to the northwest of Moscow on the road to St. Petersburg. The earliest known ancestor of Vladimir Putin was mentioned in 1627 to 1628 in the local land registry. He was Yakov Nikitin, a landless peasant living in the hamlet of Borodino, the parish of the village of Pominovo, which is around 45 kilometers to the south of Tver. I was unable to locate Borodino on the map, but it is not the same one as the one where the battle was fought against Napoleon in 1812. Pominovo was then the estate of the boyar Ivan Nikitich Romanov. That name might mean something to you, as it is the family name of the Tsar, and indeed Ivan Nikitich was the uncle of Tsar Nikolai Fedorovich, the very first Tsar in the final Russian royal family. Therefore, we can assume that the Putin family were serfs until liberated by the emancipation of 1861. The great-grandfather of Vladimir Putin was Ivan Petrovich. He was born in Pominovo on the 3rd of September 1845, so therefore he was born a serf. He died on the 27th of November 1918, aged 73. He was married to Paraskeva Matveevna Putina, née Golubeva. She was born on the 12th of October 1844 in Nepeino, and she died on the 2nd of September 1906, aged 61. In this photograph, we can see the grandparents of Vladimir Putin, Spiridon Ivanovich Putin and Olga Ivanovna Putin, who are with Putin's future uncle, Nikolai, in 1910. Spiridon Ivanovich Putin was born in 1879 in the village of Pominovo in the province of Tver. He was apprenticed at the age of 12 to a tavern where he was to learn the trade of a kitchen hand, but he was so good at it that he later ended up in a St. Petersburg restaurant as a cook. He returned to the village of Pominovo to take a local girl as his wife, Olga Ivanovna Chursanova. He was appointed as a cook at the Astoria on Gorokhovaya, one of the most wealthy streets in St. Petersburg at the time. One of his customers was said to have been Rasputin. He was doing quite well, but things did not remain so good for him. He was called up to fight in World War I at the age of 35, and once the army collapsed and after the revolution, he came back to the capital to find that there was no job and no food. In order to find food, the family returned to Pominovo. At least there they could live off the land. Despite this, it would appear that he supported the new Bolshevik government. At least that is the story that his grandson told. He already had 4 sons. One was Vladimir, born in 1911, who was to be Vladimir Putin's father. The whole family moved into Spiridon's mother's home, which Vladimir Putin said was still standing in an interview in 2000. He also then said that members of the family still spent their vacations there. Spiridon's son, Vladimir, met his future wife, Maria Ivanovna, in Pominovo. They were both 17 years old when they got married. That may seem very young, but at that time, that was completely normal. Spiridon later moved to Moscow before settling in Gorky, where he once more returned to work as a cook. He regularly cooked for Nadezhda Krupskaya, the widow of Lenin, as well as Lenin's sister Maria and younger brother Dmitry Ulyanov. Vladimir Putin said that he also cooked for Stalin when he visited Lenin's widow, although as the two of them didn't get on very well, Stalin cannot have been a frequent visitor. In 1940, he became the cook at one of Stalin's dachas. Whether or not he had a second chance at cooking for Stalin, we do not know. Whereas many people around Stalin came to an unfortunate end, Spiridon was not one of them.
An allen Abschnitten der großen Front werden die Sowjets entscheidend geschlagen. Weder General Schlamm noch General Winter vermögen den deutschen Sturm aufzuhalten.
The area around Pominovo was captured by the advancing Wehrmacht at the beginning of November 1941 and stayed in Nazi hands until mid-December 1941 when Zhukov launched the Moscow counter-offensive, which pushed the Germans back from the Soviet capital. I was unable to find out whether or not Spiridon lived under occupation, but several members of his family certainly did. Most notably was President Putin's maternal grandmother, Elzbieta Akseneva Shelmova. She lived in the village of Zareche, some 6 kilometers from Pominovo, and by this time she was the mother of the wife of Spiridon's son, and as such, the two probably knew each other and visited each other from time to time. In this area of Russia, there are mass graves in almost every village. There were fierce battles here in the autumn and winter of 1941. On the outskirts of Pominovo, the ashes of 160 Soviet soldiers rest in a mass grave. Only the names of 12 of them have been identified. This area was a war zone close to the front and subject to, first of all, the scorched earth policy of Stalin, which denied all forms of sustenance to the invaders, and then the barbarism of the invaders themselves, who sought to steal food from the already starving locals. All the villages in the area had been burned to the ground. The inhabitants who had not managed to flee lived in dugouts where they sheltered not only from the increasingly bitter cold, but also from the bombing and shelling. Elzbieta Akseneva Shelmova tried to help both her neighbours and several Red Army soldiers who were stationed in the village before the Nazis captured it. On the 13th of November 1941, she cooked potatoes on a fire, which she dug out in a frozen field, and went to the far end of the village to feed the hungry. Here she was stopped by German soldiers. The conversation was short. There was a burst of machine gun fire, and Elzbieta Akseneva fell down dead. She was buried in the Turgonovsky cemetery, where only a few graves remain today. Unbeknown to her, it was around this time that her son-in-law, the father of the future Russian president, was given up for dead outside Leningrad. Today, there's a marble gravestone for Elzbieta Alexeyevna. Next to her grave is the grave of a Soviet soldier whose name is unknown. Spiridon retired aged 80 in 1959. This photograph was taken around the time of his retirement. In retirement, he would cook at a guest house belonging to the Moscow City Communist Party, which was located in the village of Ilyanskoye. Once more, he fed some political notables, including future Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev and his mother, the Minister of Culture Ekaterina Fortseva, and local politicians Viktor Grishin and Ivan Kapitonov. His grandson, the current Russian dictator, visited him there. He recalled, "I have a clear recollection of Ilyanskoye myself because I used to come for visits. My grandfather kept pretty quiet about his past life. My parents didn't talk much about the past either. People generally didn't back then. But when relatives would come to visit, there would be long chats around the table, and I would catch some snatches, some fragments of the conversation." Spiridon had many children, and although he was quite successful in life, he was unable to pass this on to his children. Because of the wars and revolution, many people in the Soviet Union lived in abject poverty, and this included his son Vladimir and his wife, the parents of the future Russian leader Vladimir Putin. I hope you found that of interest, and in other videos I shall look at other members of Putin's family as well as other aspects of his life. So if you want to know when I upload, which is on Fridays at 2000 hours Central European time, and sometimes other times as well, then if you subscribe you will know when I'm uploading on the other times as well. Thanks very much for watching.